Let's go.
3,
Three,
2,
two,
1.
one.
Welcome back to the official season 4 of Shit That Goes On. Nope. Wait, it's only season 3. Rewind it back.
Start over.
Start it again. Take 5.
Lights go down, all eyes are on me. I spin around, do you like what you see? Better watch out, cause you know that I'll be jumping like a punk, make the beat go.
Let's give him another count already. You know this is gonna make it though. This is the intro of season 3 of Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. I'm excited. We have our first guest who's using his real name. It is Marco from Sonic Halls.
And everyone's like, who the hell is that?
Yeah. So Marco, you're here with me, Dirty Skittles, G-Rex. We got our producer Bizzle in the background. Tell us what you want the people to know about who's Marco.
Who's Marco? I'm a 21-year-old Scorpio.
Nice.
And I play in an act project thing band kind of called Sonic Halls and making music things.
Where can people
and I'm
find
a cartoon nerd.
And what was the last part? Sorry to cut you
A
off.
cartoon nerd.
Nice. Okay. Where can people find your music?
All the social media stuff is at Sonic Halls Music. That's Hedgehog, Cough Drops, Music. And then we're on Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, all that stuff. So
I love that. Speaking of where to find you, I did after we briefly met, we kind of chatted a bit. I did go and subscribe to your YouTube and
I saw that. Thank you.
And I literally jammed out to the cover of One Direction.
Let's go.
Dude, I sang it like the entire night and Bizzle was like, "Come on, bud. It's time to cut it down."
That's a hard song to sing though.
Well, I mean, I didn't sing it well. You did a much better job, for sure.
Thank you. Do you see how they sing it? It's actually very interesting.
Yeah.
Like if you look at an acoustic version of them, it's like pop. It's like usually basically they have like the main line, the da na 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 na, whatever that segment of words is at the time is all 5 of them, and then like 2-3 of them pop out for like the next part. For like the next word so they can catch your breath.
See, I feel like this is something only like the music nerds would notice, because to me, like, I'm singing the whole time. They may take a break, but I'm dedicated. I am in that car.
No, I'm the same.
What's up?
I have a compulsion to harmonize too, so it freaks anyone who doesn't do music out because it sounds like I'm singing the wrong melody completely.
You know what? Yeah, no, what is harmony? I'm like, I know the right key. I've been practicing for years. Just kidding.
I have Charlie Puth syndrome. I have the perfect pitch.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It helps me out a little bit.
I was telling Bizzle about him actually, because I fell down, I don't know, YouTube or TikTok hole, and people will challenge him. What key is this? And like he'll get it right every single time, and I thought that was really cool.
Did you see in like he's walking down the street, someone says, "Charlie, what's this?" and taps a note.
Yeah.
But he got it, at least if the audio and the video is correct, he got it wrong.
Oh, he did? Ooh.
Yeah.
Do you think they edited it afterwards?
Maybe. I've seen different people like it's like an iHeartRadio thing where like he says a note and then it's like, what's the sound of this horn? And it's like an air horn that's a completely different note. That's clearly a different thing than what they played him.
All those Charlie Puth haters. We'll address them in a separate podcast, don't worry.
This is the catalyst.
Right. G-Rex, do you have any idea who we're talking about? Because I don't picture you as a Charlie Puth listener.
I do know how you're talking about.
Oh, yes.
Not that old.
Well, it wasn't so much for that. I don't know.
Wow. Really? So
I don't know what it was.
What do you think I listen to?
That's a good question. I guess I don't know.
I listen
Katy Perry.
I do listen to Katie. I
Boom,
listen
nailed
to
it.
Pink, but I also listen to everything from AC/DC to ZZ Top. So like a little classical, a little pop, a little R&B. Not really into rap. A little bit of punk.
What about
I
country?
grew up in the 80s. So,
all right. Those are decent
The
bands.
Clash, Depeche Mode, The Cure.
Oh, I love The Cure.
My uncle just saw The Cure recently.
What? Jealous.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Cool.
They're
Tickets were really expensive.
Oh, like Elton John
Ticketmaster is...
Dude.
Ticketmaster sucks.
Yeah, they're coming for K-Swift.
Or Live Nation, all that thing. And they've made like the tiniest adjustment now. I forget if it's Ticketmaster or Live Nation. That's like, that we're not changing our prices, but we're going to tell you what the fees are up front now. So now you just know how much more you're paying.
Yeah, no secrets now.
Yeah.
They're putting their dirty laundry
better in
out
a
there.
way, but it's kind of like just a slap.
So, I mean, I love that you're into music. I clearly am a subscriber. What led you? Well, how did you find music?
I'm not sure how I found. I mean, I always loved musical things as a kid. My first so I'm very obsessive with the things that I love. And when I was little, the first things were Blue's Clues and the Wiggles. So, yeah. So I was all about, I wanted to be Anthony. I wanted to play drums. I do play drums now.
I know, in the background, awesome.
But yeah, so I was obsessed with the Wiggles. And then in terms of like trying to actually, I mean, I always, pretended to be like, yeah, I'm a rock star, the whatever, making up little songs and stuff is I don't think it's on the internet anymore, but there's a video I did when I was little called Baby, I'm a Rock Star. And my dad just filmed me singing this song, but with no music. And it was before I knew how to sing, so it's not like good. But yeah, but then in terms of like actually trying to do it for real, I think the first time I wanted to be like, oh, wow, musicians, cool. I just watched Camp Rock on Disney Channel. And right after, actually, that's already like cool. But then right after, they played the Jonas Brothers, Hold On. This is the video where they're in like a windy house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I saw Joe Jonas being like, all like, we don't have time to make amends. And I was like, I want to do that.
I love that.
And then, as you mentioned, in terms of like instruments and stuff, I always like strummed on a guitar or whatever, but it was just making noise. Well, I started learning when I was like 11, and it was all, I learned One Direction's first two albums as a whole.
Nice.
I still know how to play all their songs. And
very cool.
Yeah. And then, they always a boy band nerd, as I mentioned. I love harmonies and that kind of thing. Then from them, they introduced me to 5 Seconds of Summer, which kind of led me down the kind of pop punk, learning about Blink-182 and all those types of bands. And then I started producing around the time I was like 12 and learning the rest of the instruments I play, trying to like record myself and making covers of Five Saw songs, which was, though they don't sound good now, it was very important because it taught me how to arrange a song like that when I started making my own songs.
Yeah. I mean, kudos to you. My brain doesn't work that way. Like, I'm just always in awe of somebody who's creative and then good at being creative and can piece things together like that. So, I mean, good for you, man.
For me, my mom just calls me crazy.
Why?
I know it. She's right. But no, because like I said, I get very specific as well, so I can be very perfectionist about the things that I do. And I also with Sonic Halls, other than a couple videos we've done, I do everything myself in terms of the visuals and stuff too. So I don't know. It's just a lot of nitpicking.
No, that's awesome. How did you come up with the name Sonic Halls?
So okay. I knew because my name, obviously Marco, I assume was taken by someone. and then like my full name, Marco Estorino, just like that's kind of long-winded. So, that's right, full names here.
Breaking ground.
But I was originally Halls with a Z for a little while, like a year, but that ended up being either too close or like taken by someone else. So the meaning of the name is, so I'm very much like G-Rex just said. Similarly, I listen to like everything. It's all kind of based in kind of pop music, but everything from like rap to rock to electronic, all that kind of stuff, and that all plays a role in the music I make. So around like 2020, 2021, I said it like this. I feel like music, especially in the popular space, has broadened a lot in what's like deemed pop or that kind of thing, or even just what people are willing to do. Because there was a time where, like, especially for like rock music and that kind of thing, it's like, what, you're not meant to have electric guitars on the radio or live drums and that kind of thing. But so I envision that genres as rooms. So like in a house, you have like the rock room, the rap room, the EDM room, jazz room, whatever. And we started out with just like walls, no doors. Then in like the 2010s, there were doors, so everyone was going into everybody's rooms. And then the doors closed, but people started to build hallways. And there are a lot of the artists I love, like there's bands like Water Parks, or even, you know, artists like Billie Eilish or people like that like to ride in those hallways, and I would consider myself a hallway dweller.
So, sonic halls. I like that.
Sonic meaning sound.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Billie Eilish, because as you were talking about it and I was trying to relate in what you were saying, I remember first hearing her stuff and being like, this is so weird. Weird meaning like I personally wasn't listening to anybody who sounded like that. So it was very different, and I gravitate towards different. So I was like, oh, let's listen to this person, see what they're about. And we're lucky because our little nugget loves Billie Eilish, so you can play it.
So, Marco, I have a question. Did you, when you were learning to play the musical instruments and everything, did you play in school, or did you just play at home?
So here's the funny thing about it. So I've always had and still have a bunch of health issues. So I was stuck at home a lot. I wasn't in school most of the time. In middle school, I tried to be in like band, but I didn't know how to read sheet music, so that was like just a struggle. But when I started learning how to play guitar, my parents did put both my brother and I in lessons. My brother's in a band as well called Flowers Family. Shout out. But the thing is, I was so sick I couldn't go to most of them, so he would just have to take up basically both lesson spaces for me. But I still wanted to learn, so I would just like go on YouTube or find videos of the first song I learned to play was What Makes You Beautiful. And so there's a video of like Niall trying to teach people how to play it on the live stream or whatever, or just like random YouTube tutorials, or watching how their band plays it, that kind of thing. That kind of thing especially was important to how I learned to play drums, because there's not really, drum sheet music is so confusing to me. So what I would do is I would just watch drum covers of whatever song I was trying to learn. And keyboards, with the perfect pitch thing, I was able to pick out, okay, here's a chord I learned to play on guitar. What are the notes in that chord? Wow. And map it out on the keyboard, and then kind of, try to memorize that best I can. And I had help from vocal coaches who played piano that kind of taught me, okay, here's how you like don't break your wrist trying to go from one chord to another with your weird positions. So basically the internet and a little help from people here and there. So yeah,
that's pretty awesome. and just to not be able to read sheet music, but be able to play those instruments, that's amazing to me.
Yeah.
I mentioned I was in band for a little bit and I was sick, so I was never there. I didn't learn how, and I'm still not very good at it. Don't tell my professor who just helped me with 4 years of music theory. But I, especially back then, I didn't know how to read at all. So I was percussion, and because I know how to read rhythm. I can read rhythm well, or at least well enough for 7th grade level at the time. And so I was like, I'll do percussion because that means I don't have to work out actual notes. Little did I remember glockenspiel is a thing. So
What is glockenspiel other than
it's like
a fun thing to say?
xylophone but metal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I have like a toy one at home. It's made its way into songs every once in a while. But we had a test where it's like everyone in the band has to play this melody on page 48, whatever, and play this. I was like, shit. I've been here. I don't even know what we've been studying. But they did the percussionist like halfway through. So I was able to listen to everyone else do it. I probably still messed it up a little bit, but I was able to like just silently be like, okay, I know kind of how to play keyboards now. So I know where the notes are. So listen to everyone else play, and as they're playing, be like, okay, that's this part of you kind of learn it in fragments, right? Like, okay, here's the first part of the melody, here's the second part. And I probably missed a section because it was like a 30-second thing and it was so rude and mean. But I didn't fail. So I take that as a win.
Credit. Yeah.
And then I joined choir, which was a much better decision.
Oh, choir. I was in a choir once. Failed to get her out of here. So you mentioned a couple of times that you've had health issues. Do you think that has influenced your music at all?
Definitely at times. In some ways that are even more subconscious, because through all that, obviously I became very depressed and I'm still very anxious a lot of the time. So just those emotions being heightened plays into the music I made, especially kind of early high school time. It's really sad. And, yeah, but even when I was younger, I did write songs about my situation. I kind of lost my train of thought, but essentially, yes, it definitely has affected the music I make. And, if we're looking at a bright side in a sense, because I was sick all that time and wasn't able to go to school really, all I really had to do was spend that time studying the things I wanted to do, mostly music. Also, I do puppetry, which we talked a little about when we met up before.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time where I was really into, I still do a little bit, but like drawing and that kind of thing too. Like spending all that time, and even now when I'm at home, it lets me be like, okay, look on YouTube how to 3D animate, how to edit a music video, all those things. And that leads it to where, with all that right now, as a college student who doesn't really have that much disposable income, I have to be pretty reliant on myself for pretty much all those things. So I don't want to say thank my situation, but it certainly made it to where I learned at maybe a quicker pace than I would have if I didn't have as much time as I did.
Yeah.
So do you think that music helps you, how do I put this? You get your self-care and self-love through your music? Or
yes, but in different ways, and sometimes in counterintuitive ways.
Mm.
So, and I guess trigger warning here.
I love that.
Right. A song that when Sonic Halls first started playing shows a couple years ago, um, is a song called Feelings, and I'd written that song when I was 15. And the song itself, it's a very therapeutic release, and it helps me get those emotions out. But if you listen to the song, the first lyric of the song is, "Let's get to the point I'm depressed as fuck and I'm kind of suicidal." It goes into this big, just myriad of all my insecurities at the time. So in that way, it is self-care because once again, it helps me get those emotions out. But obviously they're not nice. And to get in the headspace where you're writing it, it is very much it's like if you let those things out as if you're going to therapy or something like that, it's like you talk about it, therefore you get very sad.
Yeah.
And then after the fact, now it is very much the two songs I sent you earlier are very much about, were written, especially Move, which is the next song I have coming out, were written in spaces where I was feeling very stuck, insecure, all that kind of thing. And Move is more blatant about it, where it is very much more about the insecurity side of performing, that kind of thing. But a song about Clunk is like, it's all about hyping up. So like, if I'm like down or just jittery and like, but am not well enough to like do stuff, the result will usually end up being a really hyper energetic song that makes me really stoked. And once I am well enough to do it, that, we haven't played shows in a while, but we're about to start soon, makes me that much more excited and happy.
Wow.
Once I'm performing, especially a song like Clunk, because that song is just fun.
So that's interesting. So you're not only writing songs about the emotions you're feeling, but ways to sort of get to emotions you want to feel.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And it even helps you access. I write about things, and as I'm writing about them, I don't realize as I'm writing what necessarily it even may be about in a way.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely element, like Move is a good example of that. So the story behind that song, and anyone who's seen my TikTok recently will have heard kind of the first verse and the chorus of that song. I just come off a tour, like 2 days of a tour. And I had COVID, so obviously I wasn't allowed to go anywhere for a while.
Yeah.
And the way my body responds to like recovering if I'm not feeling well is like, I don't physically feel well enough to like exert energy, but the energy gets built up. So I'm just like,
I need somewhere to go.
Right. If you listen to the song, you obviously hear it's like a million miles a minute. So the song I just started writing, I knew I wanted to write something make me move. But as I started writing the verse, I was like, okay, these lyrics are kind of cool, kind of fun, a little different from what I usually do. And I was like, oh, by the time I had like finished writing the second verse, I was like, oh, okay, this is a song about insecurity and trying to hold people's attention. It's about wanting to like literally physically move, but it is very much about like trying to hold the attention of, in my case, an audience, but for someone else it could be a person or a job, whatever. So that, like, the meanings of songs kind of present themselves over time, even after you've written it. It's like, oh, this at the time was just kind of a lyrical and emotional vibe I was in, but it ended up connecting to a situation I had like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, you're rediscovering new meanings.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really, really cool. Are you comfortable sharing any of like the health battles that you've had?
Yes.
That's a weird segue. I felt like I had no segue.
No, it's valid.
It's just like,
way to go, Dirty Skittles. Way to throw it out there. Way to go.
Well, because I had another question about music, which was, so, me as a listener, there are definite times where an artist's songs, or like, I'm very big on lyrics. Like, I love a good lyrically written song. And I know in my personal life, there are definite times where without really expecting it, like you put on an artist that you like, you hear a song, you relate to it 100%. And as a listener, it helps you know that you're not alone and that it almost is therapy to get through it, because while you may not have the right words to express what you're feeling, this artist is doing it for you. So I was going to ask, like, while you're writing it from your perspective with whatever's happening in that moment, do you ever think about the listener and like how it will affect them? Or does that come into play at all? Like afterwards, like, wow.
With darker songs, I do, because I have to be careful. Because for me, I'm singing about my, dark thoughts, insecurities, all that kind of stuff. But I don't want that. I don't want it to come off to a listener just being like in the worst headspace sometimes. Or even if it is a somewhat more positive song, if it does, I have a song that I've been working on that touches on those types of things. For me as an outsider, as a friend of someone experiencing it. So with things like that, if it's otherwise though, the best I've found and I've heard, the best ways that you get to those things where people do relate that much more is if you kind of write selfishly in a way.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, get the specificity of everything going on with you, and you'll interpret it however it literally was to you. But another person can take your words, even if they're the most specific thing in the world. Once again, I mentioned my favorite band is a band called Water Parks. And if anyone who listens knows them, they know that the singer Austin's lyrics are incredibly specific to him. He's name dropping random people and friends that he has, and it would make no sense. But it all melds into like, you get in the vibe of the emotion of the song still. And you can even translate, even if it's not what that person's singing about, you can translate it to your situation. And, if it is a specific situation that is that much more relatable to people anyway, obviously they apply it even further. So I never write with the intention of being like, and this has got to be relatable.
Right.
But got to appeal to the kids. But it's got to be like, no, I got to relate to me. And then the kids will come later.
Yeah. No, I get it. And I feel like that's kind of a segue back to the other question. If you're writing selfishly, right? And I can imagine just the little bit I know about your story and some of the health issues you've experienced. Like, I'm just very curious to know how you were able to, I guess, work through those health issues through music. So maybe sharing what the health issues are. I don't know.
Yeah. So it essentially works as a distraction. So
Fair enough.
The thing which I talked to you a little bit about before, there's a lot of things I had and have, I guess. But I've always had chronic pain, and specifically one thing I didn't know I had for a long time was this thing. If you see my face gets brighter in the video, it's because I'm going to a Google thing because I want to remember the acronym because I couldn't last time.
No worries.
I had a thing called MALS, median at arcuate ligament syndrome. Definitely knew that.
Flows right off the tongue.
Right. Essentially what that means is, for those who don't know, you got these things hanging off your diaphragm, which is at the top of your sternum, called a ligament. And one of mine was wrapped around a big old artery that was like pulling my diaphragm down. And as anyone who sings knows, you really need your diaphragm. And even just in life, if I'm a talkative person, I just move in general. So doing any of that really hurt.
Oh.
It would come in like really sharp waves of pain in random spots of my stomach, especially right before I got diagnosed. It had gotten basically to its worst, and I was like, I'd be screaming in pain half the day.
That sucks.
Yeah. So through that, music really helped because I actually wrote a paper on this when I was younger. Music sends endorphins and stuff to your brain. I didn't know what the word endorphins meant when I was 9, so I just thought of dolphins floating to your brain. And but it like stimulates your brain in a certain way to where it kind of makes you forget. So like obviously it was a double-edged sword for me because if I sing a song, I'm loving it in the moment, but right after
You're
on
in
the
pain.
floor.
Mm.
But yeah, those types of things. I mean, it's like when I don't know what it's like. It's like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to describe, I would imagine. Yeah.
You know, it's like I'd imagine it's like this. It's like when you see the videos of the babies getting like a vaccine or something, and the doctors like poking them with a random thing, like not stabbing them with a needle yet, but just being like
Right.
playing a little game, and then sticks them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the brain version of that. It's like it since you're doing another thing completely, you don't register it as much as maybe you would. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So through that, I've had to have a lot of surgeries, and I had that fit. I can get into that if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
So for mouths, this does play into this because this is actually there's a parallel that happens not with my music, but with water parks. So I had mouths my whole life up to the point I got it fixed, which was 2019. And so it's this really rare thing, so no one knows how to diagnose it, when to diagnose it kind of thing. So but when I finally did get diagnosed, I had to end up going to Connecticut to get the surgery. The same day I found out that was happening, my favorite band ends up releasing this new song. It's like the thing of like what ended up being kind of their breakthrough album, a song called Turbulent. It didn't relate to my story that much, but I guess in a way it kind of did. But because the song's all about a toxic ex, and the hook's literally, "I'd fuck you if I could." Which I guess in a way is what I was doing with this disease. But as the like milestones of this surgery cycle, it's not like an album cycle, but like the milestones of it happened, a new drop would get released. So like It's the day before surgery, they leak this random song on Instagram. The day after drive home, it's like the album gets announced and all this kind of stuff. The first song I cover, and it's never coming out because it's really bad. But I tried to studio cover was the next song they released. For a show I went to was the tour for that album. Yeah. So essentially it offered little distractions in what ended up being a very traumatic experience, because that surgery did not go well for me.
That concludes part 1 with Marco from Sonic Halls featuring Clunk. It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.